Hello, dear friends. This age has been the age of the Adamic state of consciousness. And the Adamic state of consciousness of man is based on the knowledge of good and evil. As the age has gone on, there's been a good deal of drama on the human scene. And most of this drama has come from not only the knowledge of good and evil, but the outworking of good or evil. And oftentimes there have been wars fought over this. And both good and evil have power, but each one has a different kind of power, and the power only comes when we go beyond knowing good and evil and act on them. Good does not require as much action as evil to become strong. Therefore, we might say that good is man's natural state. But the existence of evil, which we brought into existence through our state of consciousness, has been very well defined in this age. And it has been very strong at times. And this has to do with men making the choice to embrace evil, and not only to embrace it, but to explore it to the hilt, to go in and find every aspect of evil that is possible to work with. And the reason that men have done this is their desire for power and wealth. And this desire is a very strong one in a human being, generally speaking. And it's difficult when we feel this desire to remain good. It's difficult. The temptation of evil becomes too strong for us. And that's when we call on evil and we embrace it and we say, I'm really desirous of power and wealth, and I'm going to call on you now. And this is the power of evil. This is what we have brought into existence in our world, is that evil, and it is the power of man, but it's a dark side of man. It's a power that man has the potential to bring out of himself, but we have to willfully solicit the help of evil. We have to explore it, and we have to know what it can do for us, and then we have to, at every step of the way, say, yes, we want to go further with this. So there have been these two outworkings in this age, and there have also been times when evil has been very dominant in human society, and when human society becomes so um, controlled by evil men that darkness reigns. And Jesus alluded to this in his day when he was going to the cross, and he knew that it was the evil impulse of Adamic man that had was rearing its ugly head against him, and he said that this is the time of darkness. And so there have been times like that, and really very many times like that in our human history over the past 6,000 years. So good might be man's natural state, but evil many times has risen up and controlled human society, which means that people who resist evil are brought under the sway of those who are too strong for them, and goodness must go into hiding for a while. Um, this is a very poignant aspect to human life during this age. And along with the fact that there has been this struggle between good and evil, there have also been two kinds of power that have been displayed during this age. One is the power of evil, which we have seen very often, and its power is it's human power, but it plumbs the depths of human depravity to bring forth its power. And the other kind of power is the power of good. And usually good doesn't evoke its own power because it is a power just being itself. But there have been times when good is also called upon to rise up in power. And of course, Jesus's ministry time among us was one of these, in which the power of good was very strong, very strongly displayed in him. So we saw that the power of good is the power of God. It's the power of miraculous outworkings, of healing, of light, and of great glory. So there have been two kinds of power that we have seen. And this reflects the fact that there have actually been two states of consciousness for mankind during this age to move in and to understand. And there has, of course, been the Adamic state as being very dominant, but there has also been the state called the Christ, which is the next step of the evolution of consciousness for humankind. In essence, the state of consciousness called the Christ has visited us during this age, but we have seen it, and we do uh, know that it exists, and we do have it before us whenever we um, want to uh, evoke certain aspects of it. We can, but dominantly our state of consciousness is Adamic. So there have been two states, though, that have touched our consciousness during this age, and this is the same with power. There have been two kinds of power that have been called upon during this age, and for a long time, um, this was a delineation in human society that was reflected by what the Bible calls Jew and Gentile. And this is because there was a people called the Jewish people that actually witnessed and partook of the power of God, which is the power of good. And not only did they have this incredible experience in their history, but they were commanded to uphold the memory and to retain it as very vibrant and alive in their national history. And that was the power of good, and it was embodied in one people for the most part. The power of evil has been comparable to what we call the Gentile world. And this also has to do with ratio of population. The Jewish people have been traditionally a very tiny part of the human population, whereas the Gentiles have proliferated in numbers. And so the power of evil has oftentimes been reflected more in the Gentile world. And but when Jesus came, it was part of one of the things that happened when he was here was this delineation of Jew and Gentile ended. The New Testament says in Christ there is no Jew or Gentile anymore. And what this meant for power was very clear. It meant that no longer would the power of good be restricted to the Jewish people, but could also be evoked among Gentiles, especially individuals. And no longer would the power of evil be strictly a Gentile phenomenon, but it could also apply to the people of Israel or the Jewish people. And so there was a mixing that took place. And now it's almost impossible to delineate in the human community between, there is no certain people that are good and there is no certain people that are tend toward evil. There are just human beings, and some human beings uphold the good, both from Jew and Gentile, and some human beings evoke the power of evil, both from Jew and Gentile. And that's where we stand now in our world today. But the real important aspect of this, of understanding this dynamic in human society, it has to do with the times we're living in right now. There are signs among us right now that we're in a time when the power of evil is rising up very strongly, and it may be the greatest rising up of evil in our world that has ever taken place. And the reason that I'm saying this has to do with the kind of power that we see at work. Um, Remember that the power of good is the power of God. It's the power of miracles. It's the power of men uh, rising up into the Christ, and that power is almost non-existent in the world right now. I know that we have religions, and I know that we have many spiritual practices, but the actual power of good has gone mysteriously silent in our world. But the power of evil has uh, become very strong. And the way that we can know this is through the extensive kind of display of evil that has been uh, seen in our world before. It's not new, but a lot of throughout our history, there have been long periods when this kind of display of evil has been held in check. There's always been evil, but the deep kind of display that we're beginning to see on the world stage right now, it has been held in check, or if it has been displayed, it's been um, kept localized and relatively small. But a lot of what has caused this prolific uprising of evil right now is the fact that there is no localization anymore in the world, and there are no more uh, there's no more possibility of being small. Everything is global, and everything can be quickly magnified through the internet. So, what are these signs? The fact that this display is pointing to something bigger than we've ever seen, and how have these been played out in the past? And power has always driven men. The hunger for power has always driven men to embrace evil. And humans have a certain degree of power, but the power of man is not as great as the power of God. The power of God is miraculous, and it's the power of an indestructible life. The power of man is fear, oppression, and physical violence. The power of man is the power to take a human physical life. That's its ultimate power, and that's what its greatest threat is, that your life will be in danger. But men who have gone in this direction have used this human power, this power of man, to its fullest. And the way to do this is it's not only to bring fear and to threaten, but also to actually bring murder into the forefront of the situation. In other words, it's one thing to threaten people with losing their lives if they don't go along, but it's another thing to actually begin shedding blood. And that's what we see happening in our world right now. And there's another sign, and this sign is not as apparent. We can see when people lose their lives, and we can see when blood is shed. But this other sign usually takes place behind closed doors. And what it involves is something, a very ancient kind of evil. It's a kind of an oath-bound society among men. And the reason that this is worse, that this is a really egregious form of evil, is very basic. It's that the power of many is greater than the power of one. So in really particularly dark times, what we find is that the evil, it can start with one person, but that one person does not limit it to simply a singular kind of expression. It brings into the power structure other people, because the more people that are brought on board with this power schematic, the more evil can be wrought in society. And the way that people are brought on board is through oath. It's through swearing an oath of loyalty, of an oath of that is usually sworn according to not just human power, but the power of God, the power of any kind of spiritual power that is greater than men. And it's a power that is often sealed. This oath is often sealed with the threat of death. That when you swear this oath of loyalty, if you were to go back on it and break that oath, your life would be in danger. So this is what we see going on in our world today. All the signs are there that there is an oath-bound society rising up right now that is threatening to spread and to wield great power because the evil of one is going to be expansive into many. And this is where all of the really dark imagery of evil comes in, is in these oath-bound societies. Um, Many of the rituals um, throughout history, there have been many dark rituals associated with these oath-bound societies. There's been child sacrifice. There have been all kinds of really dark human activities. And in a sense, that it's almost as if this kind of a society feeds on very perverse, dark activities. Plus, you have the aspect of wealth. And this is most people, for most people who are inclined uh, to be tempted to join a secret society like this, it's not just power that they're after, it's wealth. The two go together. And so we see wealthy, extremely wealthy people in the world right now joining hands with power hungry people, and unfortunately becoming bound by an oath of loyalty. And it's not that their loyalty is to just one person, it's to the whole society. The whole secret society that they're swearing their oath to is to become a part of this society ongoing, and to not vary, and to never go against um, the dictates of the society, of this order, until its goals are achieved. And so that's when we have to really bring to light what their goals are. And that's the part that makes this a very dangerous and dark time. The goals of power-hungry men uh, through the oath-bound societies of evil that they have often reverted to, the goal has always been the same, and that is to subjugate all free people, to take away their freedom, to take away any goodness in their life, to make them subject to them. And and they have always had different methods for doing this. In the ancient days, there was actual subjugation through force, through enslaving people. And then in our time, it has changed. There is now subjugation through economics and through secret dictates that There's subjugation of people through politics, through through situations where their basic human rights are revoked. And unfortunately, this is not the end. It can very well lead to an even uh, worse outworking. People are, when they lose their freedoms and they become subject to this, that doesn't stop the the secret society. That doesn't satisfy them. They keep on until there's, it's like a hungry monster. There's nothing left to devour. And then what this often brings about is the destruction of an entire people, an entire land. Um, there have been um, there have been societies throughout history, not many, but there have been um, instances where total uh, civilizations were totally destroyed. And because of this outworking of evil, because once this outworking of evil, of this secret oath bound society brand takes root in a society, it's really hard to get rid of it. And it spreads. It spreads from one person to the next, and it grows. And it basically consumes the land. And when that happens, the only recourse for the universe is destruction. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what's going to happen to us at this point, but I see the signs that this is happening. And if we are unable to reverse this trend, then our present human society, and it could be a global society by the time this happens, will go the way of these other civilizations. And that could happen in many different ways. It could happen through warfare, nuclear warfare. It could happen through climate uh, uh, brought about instances of upheaval, climatic upheaval, and environmental. Um, there's many ways that destruction can come. I think with the lost continent of Atlantis, um, basically a whole continent was swallowed up by the sea, by the ocean. So the universe is not it's not cowed into submission by man's power hungry uh, outworkings. The universe remains um, a uh, a neutral, independent form of power. But in these kinds of times, it's very difficult for the power of good to be found anywhere, and unfortunately, this seems to be what's the case right now. Um, the power of good is has always been the power that has countered this kind of buildup. But when that power becomes mute and weak, um, there's really no check. There's no balance left, and I don't want to believe that that this is irreversible. I do want to um, reserve the right to dream and to hold to the good, even in the face of this kind of evil. But sometimes there's just not any way for the power of good to keep things in check. And so what we need to do is, in our individual lives, where we have our own inner life that is beyond the reach of any technology, beyond the reach of any physical um, kind of um, threatening. Um, we need to nurture this right now, and we need to really seek the Christ within us, and because out of this destruction there will come a new age, and it will be a time when evil, this kind of evil, cannot happen again. But getting there is going to be difficult, and each one of us has to be has to nurture this goodness within us, and it has to be a real priority for us. Otherwise, we're going to get swept away. And so this is what I would call all people to do is it's nurture the good within you. And even though we're of Adamic consciousness, we're still in the image of God. We're still conscious beings of light, and we have great goodness within us. And as more and more of us nurture this and grow in light and power of good, um, I think that there is going to be the hope of something much better to come.